And last week we left off with Jesus healing the centurion's servant without even being present, which is cool. Who can read for me verses 14 through 17? We're going to pick back up in chapter 8.
I'll do it.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Now when Jesus had come into Peter's house, he saw his wife's mother lying sick with a fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she arose and served them. When evening had come, they brought to him many who were demon-possessed, and he cast spirits with the word, and healed all who were sick, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, He himself took our infirmities and bore our sicknesses.
Okay. I have testimony about Jesus healing a lot more people. Is there any part of those verses that stands out to you?
I was wondering why, and it says, sometimes it says demons, and then it'll say like unclean. Why does it say different word?
They're the same.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking,
go
like,
ahead.
like with deliverance and stuff,
Yeah.
like, there are different things where, like, people deliver people from, like, a sickness versus possessed by a demon.
Yeah.
I think there are, like, just like, levels to certain things like that, too, maybe. That's what I've always thought.
There are, well, it's obviously mysterious. We don't have a lot of information on them. So, unclean spirits, for sure, is not fallen angels. Okay. Neither is demons. So, fallen angels is a whole different rank. Okay. Unclean spirits are like spirits of fear, spirits of anxiety, spirits of discouragement, spirits of poverty. Sicknesses, or like Hannah's saying, can be caused by these kind of spirits. They're unclean because they're not of God. God doesn't like causing. God didn't give us a spirit of fear. Therefore, a spirit of fear is not from God. Therefore, it's unclean. Right? Now, demons. Hannah's right. Actually, they may be different. It depends. So according to the book of Enoch, demons are actually the disembodied spirits of the giants that died in the flood, or before the flood, which is different, would be different from these unclean spirits. Okay, so that's a theory, but the difference between demons, in this case, would possess you, unclean spirits would oppress you. Does that make sense? Okay. So Christians can't be possessed because we have the Holy Spirit. But you can be oppressed, depression, fear, anxiety, anger, lust, these kind of things. Yeah? Okay.
I like the simplicity with the way he heals, with just a word, just a touch of the hand.
Right.
This isn't anybody making a big demonstrative thing out of it. It's
Right.
just,
How does that compare with the way people do healings today? A lot of times. Not every time.
it's just a lot of times they make a huge production out of it and have to have a lot of people around and have it publicized and.
Right. Do you get the feeling sometimes, and I know that there are godly people that help facilitate the Holy Spirit healing people in the same way Jesus is here, but a lot of times in churches, healings are done kind of like a theater, it seems like, right? Mm-hmm. So, do you ever get the sense that sometimes people are thinking that they can empower prayers for healing with passion? Like somehow more passionately, more fervently, that somehow that's going to affect healing more than if they just did a simple prayer like Jesus did?
That's oftentimes how they preach too, right?
Yeah. Well, preaching is a little different because
Yeah.
if you're preaching with fervency, that is going to, that's part of exhortation and challenge. That's like motivating people. So, but when you're praying for healing, who are you trying to motivate?
Who are you trying to what?
Motivate. Like who are we praying to?
No.
No. Is that going to move him?
Well, like compassion in your heart.
Not compassion,
Yeah,
passion.
passion, yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about feeling empathy or compassion. I'm talking about people
Yeah,
go,
right.
oh Lord, oh, they're just putting all these words into it and energy, and they feel like if the prayer's not energetic enough that God won't hear, right? We don't see Jesus doing that. In fact, the fact that he doesn't do that shows greater faith, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
He knows the Father's listening. So just Father, he just, or he doesn't. In Jesus' case, he doesn't even ask the Father. He just commands the sickness and it leaves.
Yeah.
I think we have to pray the Father. Jesus obviously is a little different, but so what else stands out to you?
I like when it says she rose and served him. It's like he healed her, and then she just didn't lay there and said, "Okay, I'm healed now." She actually, got up and did something instead of just,
Right.
"I'm better."
She got up and served them. Like, what was she doing? Yeah, probably made him food, right? She made a meal or brought him a meal or something.
Yeah. Cooked up some eggs and bacon.
Yeah.
A pan.
Waffle maker.
A waffle maker.
Yeah, waffle and chicken. Yeah.
Coffee.
How do you feel about realizing Peter was married?
That's cool.
Have you ever thought about that?
It didn't say much about
How
it.
many of the disciples married?
Just him.
Oh, you knew a few
Just
of them.
him?
Yeah.
We don't know for sure it was just him.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. They never did say anything.
Which one is it described? Is it though just him that
His is the only wife who's mentioned.
mentioned?
Yeah. Through his mother-in-law. Yeah. And there's a passage, I think, where Paul talks about Peter bringing his wife along on his missionary journey.
Okay.
That's right. That is nice. That's good. Okay. So, what do y'all think about, what does this mean when he says, Isaiah said, he himself took our infirmities and bore our sicknesses? What does that mean? I mean, he took our infirmities, you can say, okay, well, he's taking the sicknesses away. But what about he bore our sicknesses?
Did he take them on?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Like he interceded.
Yeah, he's definitely interceding. Let's look up I don't think I have looked up that Hebrew word or Greek word before. Let's see. What does it mean to y'all?
Like he took it up on the cross, or he will take it up on the cross.
Well, it seems like he's taking them now. Right? Like it's present tense.
Took them out in the universe.
Send him to the universe.
Yeah. Poof, he's gone
Put
there.
him in the sun, huh?
Yeah.
That's funny. All right,
Is it
let's.
like a foreshadowing of like what he will ultimately do.
Well, yes. I mean, obviously, it's part of a prophetic passage about everything the Messiah will do. This seems to be that the author of Matthew is specifically referring to this moment when Jesus is healing.
Yeah,
People.
because I mean, like
Okay.
he did it.
It's not referring to the cross. Is the. Let's see. Let me look up the Greek word here. Before. See if there's an unusual bastasso. Carried. Okay. Seems like it means to carry. So the idea being he carried them away. Okay. Doesn't necessarily mean he like put them on his shoulders and kept them. It meant he carried them away from the person. Okay. All right, let's go on. Let's read 18 through 22. Who's got
18
it?
to 22?
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Alright. And when Jesus saw great about him, he gave a command to depart to the other side. Then a certain scribe came and said to him, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. And Jesus said to him, Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Then another of his disciples said to him, Lord, let me go and bury my father. But Jesus said to him, Follow me and let the dead bury their own dead.
All right. What are your feelings about this? How challenging is this for you?
Makes me feel sad.
Yeah? Why does it make you feel sad?
Because Jesus said he doesn't have anywhere to lay his head.
Yeah, that's true. What does he mean he's got nowhere to lay his head, though? Does he actually, like, is he have to stand up all night?
He doesn't have a bed.
He moves around
A
too
sad
much.
bed.
Yeah, he doesn't have his own home, right? He's homeless. Jesus was homeless. He just didn't, well, he did actually probably stay outdoors quite often, but he would wander with the disciples, and this, not, guys, he would wander with the disciples and just be housed, whatever family would take him in. You know, so when he's in Capernaum, Capernaum is one of the main cities that Jesus teaches from. It's right on the north shore of the Sea of Galilee, right in the middle. Where would he stay when Jesus was in Capernaum? Anybody know a bit of trivia?
Somebody's house.
Somebody's house? Whose house?
House?
Peter's house.
Peter's.
Jesus stayed at Peter's house. How do we know Jesus didn't move around in Capernaum?
Just trying to lay low. No.
Well, I think of how Jesus commands the disciples to whoever takes you in, stay there.
Yes.
Don't go from house to house. So
Right.
I assume he would have done the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. If he's commanding the disciples to the house, then he's probably going to obey his own words and not go from house to house. So, and we know where Peter's house is today. We know where the mother-in-law was healed. Like, you can go there. It's preserved. Like, very early first century Christians put on Peter's house and said, "This is Peter's house," literally. So, archaeologists know exactly where it is. And you can go visit it today, and you can see it's pretty big. Like, it's a pretty big house, lots of bedrooms. So, Jesus slept in one of them, and he healed Peter's mother-in-law.
I thought it when it said about that, the layer meaning like my home is in heaven. Like that's my place.
Yeah, that's obviously true. His ultimate home is in heaven, and that's why he's not making a home here.
Right.
Okay, because he is so obedient to the Father, and this world is a fallen place, that he's not getting distracted with home ownership. Okay, he's just not even renting a home. I'm get him to come back to the real home. So I'm not going to get distracted. I'm just going to walk around and let people loan me their homes. And that's literally what he's saying. He's saying the foxes have holes for their homes in this earth, and birds of the air have nests for their homes in this earth. But the Son of Man has no home of his own on this earth to lay his head. So, why is he saying that to this guy, though? Why is that his response to a man who says, "Teacher, I'll follow you wherever you go"? I mean, lots of pastors would love for somebody to walk up to him after training. "I'm yours, dude. Tell me what to do. I'm going to follow you everywhere. I'll do whatever you want." You know. How many pastors would like to have someone say that to them? And what does Jesus say in response?
Maybe just test.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to me, I really enjoy, like, when we're reading this right now, it makes me think of, like, missionaries. You know, Jesus is truly on mission. He didn't come here to live an ordinary life. He came here on mission. And so, like, you know, I feel like this guy saying, "I'll go wherever you go," and Jesus is reminding him, like, I'm on mission.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of missionaries where, you know, like Gideon, you know, Gideon could, you know, the Lord could tell him to move to Syria tomorrow, and he would go, you know, or he would go, you know, wherever that may be, right? He left his home. So it's like Jesus is reminding him to, hey, understand what you're asking for, because we're on mission. This is not an easy life, but a fulfilling one, but it's one different than you've known, right?
Right.
I think also just to add with what Alex saying, many times people see a certain, "Oh, you heal this and you do this and you see these things, I want that too." So follow you to get that. And Jesus just says, well, if you do this, the sacrifice is this. This is the example I'm living and what I'm setting. Are you up sleeping in a house, not having a home, having all these things done to you? Because behind this, people don't always see the things that actually happens to the people that's following Christ. And it's things that you carry on your own, and only the people that you are vulnerable enough alongside you. His disciples could have answered that too and say, "Well, we his followers, we don't have a place to sleep, but we gave up everything because we see his compassion, we see his love, and we experience that with him."
Right. Yeah. So if we had to put this his answer to the man in other words, in modern words, just your own phrasing.
Call me, but you might sleep on the ground next to me somewhere.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
just a little bit of a test, I'd say.
Okay. I think that's right. He's essentially saying, "Hey, you gonna follow me wherever I go?" "Oh yeah, I'm homeless. You ready to be homeless?" Okay. So, how does Jesus response to this man? This guy is like coming up to him and saying, "I'm sold. Whatever you want from me, I'm yours." How does Jesus' response to that differ from what you see in modern church culture, modern American church culture?
They don't expect you to give up anything, really.
Right. So, what do most pastors and churches do today when they see somebody as a quote unquote seeker?
Comfort them maybe or something?
Yeah, I mean, not that we're not supposed to comfort people
Yeah.
and show compassion. It's not my point. But the general attitude is, if someone is showing an interest in God or Jesus, coddle them, make it super easy, try to get rid of all, we're so worried about them flaking off and changing their mind. We're trying to make it so easy, that there's no challenges, right? Is Jesus taking that
No.
strategy?
Especially with the next part.
Yeah. So Jesus repeatedly, when people come to him and they say, "I'm ready to follow you," he makes it harder. He challenges them. Says, "Are you really ready?" Jesus isn't wanting just any disciples. Okay, he's wanting people. He's not wanting numbers. Okay, he's not begging people to do the sinner's prayer on the screen just to save them from to get their ticket away from hell. He's preaching the truth, and then he's putting a very high bar. So if you're serious, you better count the cost. Okay, and why doing that? Why is he so different from our pastors today?
Because he's not just anybody. He wants you to prove it.
Okay, does he want you to prove it? I might word it slightly different, but I think that's on track.
Yeah.
I think it's a reflection of good leadership to tell the people that you're leading what the cost is,
Mhm.
right, and what it takes. So, at my gym, at the beginning of the season, what's your goal? And they tell me what their goal is, and I'm truthful. And hey, if you want to be a state champion, these are the things that you're going to have to do. But I also leave the door open up. Hey, in 3 weeks, in a month, if you decide that you don't want to do things, then let's switch your goal, right? So I think not that Jesus would say switch your goal of salvation, but I think it's the same concept.
Mhm.
If this is what you want, this is the cost.
Right.
Being truthful about that up front.
Lead them. Just say, this is, that's a good way to look at it. Just, what's your goals? And do you really want to sleep in the dirt and, under the stars with me and go to different people's houses and spend the night?
Give up your comfort.
Yeah, give up your comfort, yeah.
Jesus isn't going to put any magical 7-course dinner on the table, right? Like healing people. It doesn't work that way.
I mean,
Oh.
he is the great healer.
Yeah.
Right? Amazing in many ways, but he speaks truth and he doesn't coddle. Okay, he comforts, but he doesn't coddle. What's the difference between comfort and coddling?
Well, can I just add
Yeah.
something to that? I think also, the Bible verse where it talks only his disciples will hate the world pretty much, I think it's also idolatry as well, that kind of sacrifice and keeping people in uncomfortability lets them know okay, this is not my home, this is not my place, so I'm not going to put these things before the Lord as well. And so I think it's really interesting as well, what you say about your story whenever you were going to go on your mission trip and he was going to put you on the front line of that you were going to die.
Yes.
He was just he was making you feel like you were going to die.
Yeah.
And you're like, why? And it's well, because he wanted you to stay in uncomfort so then you'd be able to sacrifice to him more. But I've also been thinking about that a lot recently. And I wanted to know why. Why must we befriend uncomfortability versus we can be content, but we have to always kind of be surrendering as well.
Why do we have to surrender? I think that's easy to see if you put it into the context of a relationship, like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, for example. So if you, let's say you have a girlfriend who says she loves her boyfriend, okay, and she's with him whenever it's easy. But whenever it's hard or life gets hard or gets distracted, well, he falls by the wayside. You know, all these other things will come first. Okay. And, or, you know, if he is being, let's say he's going through hard times. Let's say he becomes homeless through no circumstance, no fault of his own. You know, she says, oh, yeah, I'm not so keen on this anymore. Okay? Right? So, how does that affect the relationship? Okay? And let's say he's a prince in waiting, but he's become homeless because of whatever, right? So she loses faith in that moment, doesn't help him, sacrifice for him, be with him when it's hard. So she'll end up losing the reward later of being married to the prince. Okay, when he's brought into his glory, right? So it's basically surrender now is a statement of value to Jesus. It's basically saying, what am I willing to give up for you? Okay. And ultimately, Jesus didn't say, okay, and he didn't say, don't listen to me, or don't put my words into practice. Like, he's got different levels. He's just told everybody, whoever hears my commands, my teachings, and puts them into practice is like him who builds a house on a solid rock. Okay? I didn't say you have to go around being homeless in order to put my teachings into practice. Right? In other words, to benefit from, you don't have to become homeless. You don't have to follow as radically as he's doing. What he's actually responding to is what this man said. The man didn't say, I love your teaching, I want to listen to more. He didn't say, at my house, I'm repenting today. And he didn't say, I'm going to follow for 2 days. He said, I'm going to follow you wherever you go. Meaning, I'm ready to give up everything to be your most committed disciple, trying to say. So Jesus is saying, okay, if you want to be the state champ, then you're going to have to make the hugest sacrifices. You're going to have to do everything I'm doing. You're going to have to sacrifice everything I'm sacrificing. So really, that's what it comes down to. It's you get out, you put in. In other words, what you show Jesus you're willing to give up for him.
It's like ask and you shall receive kind of thing, you know. So like, you know, like God downloads things to you, you know, like that. I guess that term, you know. So like, I guess a lot of times, like whenever you ask God into like plans or you know, certain you want to do, then like maybe like that's whenever He lets you know, like, hey, well, if you want this, you're gonna have to do A through Z in order to accomplish this, and these are the things that you're gonna have to sacrifice.
Yes.
So I think that's like a really good example of what love really looks like actually from God, though. I think that's really good that He's just up front with you about that. Though. I think it's interesting.
Yes, he is. He tells you exactly the way it is. And in that example he gave, you know, if the girl is really in love with this guy, she loves him for who he is, okay, then technically the circumstances wouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. If her love isn't based on his house, you know, or material things, then, and she's really in love with this guy for his heart and who he is, then she wouldn't be affected by that. She'd want to help him and commit to him and whatever else, no matter what, because she loves him for who he is. So that's really what we're looking for, people who love him that much while we're here without the eternal rewards, right? Where we're walking with faith, okay? And my recommendation is, not that I've perfected this, but think of every possible thing you could put on the altar and truly give it up. Okay. Like, are you willing to give up your life? If you knew you were going to go die, like if hey, we're going to do outreach in Atlanta next weekend, and everybody says, yeah, I'm coming, and then you have a dream where God says, if you go, you'll die. You're going to get shot. Would you go?
I'd just go behind you.
No problem. Put myself in front of the bullet. So the bullet's going to go around me and hit you, Marty.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Boomerang.
He can get you if he wants.
He sure
He'll
can.
ricochet off the wall.
Like, I think real life examples of this is like Abraham Lincoln. Like he knew he was going to die before
He
he
did.
died, you know. And then also Charlie Kirk, he did the same thing, you know. Like just recent text came out about Charlie Kirk as well. And so like I think looking at those guys, well, yeah, I think looking at them, I think those are kind of good examples as well for following stuff like that, especially Charlie Kirk. But I don't know what Abraham Lincoln's background is, you know. But.
It's debate. I believe he was a Christian. He's to indicate he was, but there was some doubts. But I think he was. Regardless, yeah. I mean, I think from my perspective, I just don't want to face him, and there be something that I said no, I wasn't willing to give that up. Okay. And there's kinds of things. I mean, if you have like nothing left in your bank account, and then you feel like God's pressing you to give it to somebody, what little you have left to someone else, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to totally bankrupt yourself? Are you willing to risk total embarrassment, loss of reputation? You know, faith. Part of faith is putting everything on the altar, truth, saying you can take everything, God, and you mean it, and you're trusting that He isn't necessarily going to do it. Okay, but if He does do it, you saying okay. Okay, like I have constantly put my material things, house, this coffee shop, on the altar. Saying if you want to take them, you can. I don't hold on to anything like this. I try not to. Some days I forget and I start slipping into it. But when I hold everything you have, hold like this, so that He can take it. If you do that, if that's your position, guess what? He doesn't have to take it from you because you've already truly in your heart given it up. Then He's free to bless you with things because He knows you're not going to worship them. You're not going to hold on to them and get your identity from them.
It's like Abraham and Isaac to the very last moment.
Yeah.
His faith.
And if your hands are like this, not only is He free to take, but He's free to put stuff in. It's hard to put stuff into closed fists. So.
Yeah, and I'm just reminded of what you said last week too about your wife and what God told you. You know, if I don't heal her, do you still love me? And because I was reminded of the Abraham and the Isaac, and you know, the things that we care about the most. Really, there's levels to faith, and then the you know, your son or your spouse, your daughter. It's like, okay, what God, is there any idolatry in my heart? And you know, I give them to you, and that can be, yeah, like just the high call of that is just really serious. But ultimately, we know He's good, and you know, so he gave, you know, He did. Abraham didn't have to kill Isaac. You know, He stopped that, but He was like, "Do you love me this much? And do you try?" Did. And so I think, yeah, when we give things up, He either takes it away, He knows it's good for us to take it away, or He lets us have it because He's like, thank you for loving me. He acknowledges that act of love.
Great. That's good. Yeah, we have eternal rewards waiting. We don't know what they are, but Jesus promises that we're going to be blessed if we're persecuted for righteousness' sake, for His name's sake. So when you think about laying down your life, honestly, that for me isn't the hardest thing to do. That one's kind of easy. I mean, if you really believe His words, then this is the bomb, right? It's not the best life we're going to have.
So it's like to die is to gain,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to be in His presence. Why wouldn't we want to hurry that up? I want to be done with my job, right? So, you know, if I can pick, I'd prefer beheading. This is really
Thinking about
quick.
that a while, have you?
Yes, and it's the one death in Scripture that's promised the reward, like resurrected early. So that sounds great to me.
Almost if it gets
If it gets stuck, I probably no. I don't know. I'm not worried about it. I've heard a lot of near-death experiences. People don't feel that pain, like their spirit just kind of goes. I'm really not that worried about it. I think for me the harder thing is living for Him while having given everything up, reputation, loved ones. You know, for me that's harder.
There's that original of you have your brain has like 7 seconds of consciousness, and then you just know, like,
Yeah, it's kind of like a roller coaster.
Like, it's either if you don't have a basket and you need to see the basket, or your head's
Yeah.
rolling in the dirt.
Just close your eyes.
You cannot
Just
you
study the
cannot
basket.
use your
Study
hands
the
to stop it.
basket.
Like, alright.
For 7 seconds. How would anybody even know that? How would anybody even know how many seconds you get after beheading?
Right,
Who's going to come back and tell us?
Yeah, really.
I don't think it's scientific fact. All right. So let's
we got
go
off of
on
something.
because yeah, beheading's great. I
Let's
think.
do it.
Of all the methods,
She was afraid that you would feel like whatever. But I was like, no, once you're
Yeah.
dead, like it's not connected nerves of your.
So you're not like a chicken.
So you don't
Yeah.
feel pain.
there's some deaths the disciples went through that I'm like, I don't want that one.
Mm-mm.
You know, no, thank you. Yeah, no, don't want that one. All right, so let's look at verse 20 again and then verse 22 because you got two different things. So the implication is in verse 20 that the man doesn't follow Jesus wherever he went because, right? So it seems like Jesus has successfully discouraged him. And this directly relates to Revelation 3:16 where Jesus says, I know your works because you're neither hot nor cold. I'm going to vomit you out of my mouth. Jesus doesn't like lukewarm. And he wants on fire, or he wants you to know, he wants to know clearly you're cold. He doesn't want pretend followers. So this is what he's doing with this man. He's basically testing, are you on fire or are you lukewarm? He does not want lukewarm. Lukewarm waters down the fire. Lukewarm believers cool down the fire. You don't want lukewarm believers in your church. You don't want believers at all costs. Okay? You don't want just to fill seats. That's not what Jesus wants. He wants on fire believers filling the seats only. Okay? Because that's what keeps the fire hot, and that's what ultimately spreads the gospel further. Okay? Christians in the pews cooling down the fire in a church slows the kingdom down, hurts the witness, because they're not even following well most of the time. You know, it's not good. Okay, we need to hold out and people, I think, the way Jesus did. Hey, are you really following? But he's not talking about giving up his life. He's saying, hey, you're going to be uncomfortable. You okay with that? The second one's a slightly different challenge. Another of his, now this is a disciple following him, but he's talking about following him strongly. And he says, Lord, let me first go and bury my father. And Jesus said to him, follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. What does he mean by that? What is he talking about?
The first dead is the spiritually dead, and the second dead is the physically dead.
Good try. He is referring to let the dead bury their own dead. I think is referring to, could be referring to the spiritual. Another meaning here. Anybody know what this is probably referring to culturally? So in Jewish culture, when a person died in your family, you would put their body in the tomb, like Jesus was put in the tomb, and their body would stay there for a year, and they would just let it decompose until it was only bones left. And then, because tombs are expensive, and the rich is expensive, they would go in and collect their family members' bones, and they'd put them in a bone box called an ossuary, which is much smaller. Okay, and sometimes you'd have multiple family members' bones in the same ossuary, same bone box. So that process would take a year, and most likely, that's what this guy is saying. Most likely what he's saying is, hey, my dad died, we put him in the tomb, I'm waiting for the bones, the ceremony, we put the bones in the ossuary, and that's what he meant by let me bury my father. He's like in this waiting period. And Jesus is saying, no, he's already dead. Let the dead bury their own dead. Okay? You don't need to do this ritual. You just follow me now. Don't waste time. The other option is, that's the most probable meaning. The other option is that the man just has an elderly father that he thinks is going to pass away at any time, sick or something, and he's saying, hey, I can't go right now, I have to take care of my dad. And Jesus is saying, yeah, just let him take care of himself, you follow me now. So how do you feel about that? What are you saying?
The second one.
Yeah. what kind of challenge is it? This is a challenge about relationships, right? Jesus often is the two things that tend to get in the way of us are material goods we don't want to give up, material comforts we don't want to give up, and relationships that we think are more important. So in both cases, saying, in the first case, there are no material possessions that be more important than following me. And the second, he's saying there are no relationships that should be more important than following me, including your father.
Anyone that doesn't love their father or mother less is no fit for the kingdom.
Right.
The word is translation is hate, but it means love less.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think it goes back to what Hannah said earlier too about prioritizing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you prioritize?
Right.
If you prioritize that relationship above God's, then that relationship becomes an idol. So
That's
it's
right.
really- yeah, it's not about the respect or disrespect for your parents. It's about prioritizing the relationship.
I'll tell this story. One time I knew, a number of years ago, I knew this lady who did some work for me. I knew her for not lots of years, and she's a single mom. And she had been single since her son was born. So the father of her son abandoned them when he was a baby. She dedicated her entire life to raising this boy. And he was her life, and she was saving everything. She was working herself to death, saving money right and left, trying to buy a house, etc. And then he was in his early 20s, and he messed up, and it looked like he was going to prison for one mistake that most people wouldn't forgive, though. Would not. Like it, that most people would condemn him for it, even though it was, given his mindset, maybe there was excusable, we'll say. I don't know. That was up to the judge to decide. But anyways, regardless, all of a sudden she spiraled. She's going downhill. She's a very strong believer, but she's felt like God just hasn't been there for her whole life, and now her son is going to prison, and she was in a very, very and she'd received a letter from the district attorney saying that pretty much they're going to throw the book at her son and make sure he went away for years and years and years and years. So she was devastated. I don't know. I guess maybe, I don't know. Maybe I should have been a little more, but I was very empathetic and compassionate. But this one day, I just kind of said, hey, you know what? I've known you a long time. But I think your son's an idol. If you're determined that your life is worthless because he might leave you and go to prison, then that means you're getting your identity from him, and he's an idol. Repent. I think God's taking him away because he's jealous and wants you as his to have him first, and because you put your son first, he's taking your son away. So if you go home and repent of this idolatry and promise God that from now on he's going to be first and not your son, things might change. And I thought she'd slap me. But I said it anyways. But she did, and she took it well. And I didn't know if she would do it. But the next time I saw her, she looked like she had reversed her age 10 years.
Wow.
I mean, the lines were gone from her face. She's relaxed. I did it. I told God that he's first now, and I'm just trusting my son in his hand. 2 weeks later, they got a different letter from the district attorney saying they were going to pretty much do time served and maybe a few months of jail and then let him out. Like, it completely changed. So, God is serious about us not putting relationships in front of him.
It's awesome.
Because he's jealous. Put it bluntly. All right, Delaney, would you read verses 23 through 20?
Now when he got into a boat, his disciples followed him. And suddenly a great tempest arose on the sea, so that the boat was covered with the waves, but he was asleep. Then his disciples came and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we're perishing. But he said to them, Why are you fearful, you of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. So the men marveled, saying, Who can this be, that even the winds and the sea obey him?
So, what do you like most about that passage?
I think he made his disciples just a little bit more believers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little
You think
bit.
their faith grew a little bit?
Yeah, a bit of faith came rising up.
I like the, but he was asleep.
Yeah. That is such a crazy verse. It's like illustrating his humanity to emphasize his divinity,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
And I also like that, then he rose and rebuked the winds and the sea. That a call to action, a demonstration of having to rebuke, for there to be calm. That sometimes we have to, be, rebuke anxiety or whatever the unclean spirit is to have calm, to maintain that authority.
I like how he
Or
just
use
showed like the example of like just by him just sleeping, and all that. And it's just like I think he was literally showing his disciples just like, wow,
Don't
nothing is
worry.
phasing me, and don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
So why should you worry?
Right.
And then it was the act of like going to do what he did to show like, just like if it's not phasing you, you should be okay because I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think like also to kind of like piggyback off of what you were saying, what's really interesting is that like Jesus rebuked the storm. And so like I think going back to that one verse where Jesus is talking to the Pharisees and he's like, you cannot use like Satan to get Satan.
Mm-hmm.
I think like I heard a sermon like not too long ago that like really struck me. Because being in security and emergency preparedness, like that being my major, a lot of it has to do with natural disasters. And so I hear like a lot of people, like whenever like a really, really big natural disaster happens somewhere, a lot of people like their first is to be like, oh, God did this because the people are sinning.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I think like this verse in specific, like it shows me that like sometimes you don't really know, like sometimes God does do like acts of where it's like, this is me and I'm creating this storm to destroy a city. There's sometimes of where it's a storm and Jesus is rebuking a storm.
Right.
So like he's not contradicting himself either.
Right.
So I think like this verse calls us to discern, whenever like a natural disaster happens as well, to not always jump to the conclusion that God is punishing people
Right.
as well.
Right. Well, and even then, if a storm isn't, wiping a town off the map and killing every single person there, then punishing, judgment is like that would be a spanking. Meaning, the purpose of such a thing is not to destroy; it's to get people's attention so they turn back to Him, right? And so, if He brings a storm like that, He has so many purposes in it, right? I mean, I know every time that I see dark rolling clouds and hear thunder, my first thought is, oh crap, I heard God.
Yeah.
Right? Like just the sight of the storm, and immediately everybody is like reminded of God's power. Okay, then people that may perish in a storm like that, why? It's their time. He's calling them home for whatever reason. There could be people that are going to not do well in front of Him that are being called to judgment, and there can be saints who are being called to paradise. That it's just they're not judged. It's just their time is up.
Yeah.
And then there can be people who are going through it fearful, like these disciples are starting fearful, and the storm has been brought so that they face this fear and move into faith through the storm. Like they're in the process of the storm, they learn faith, right? Then there can be people who start the storm with faith, like Jesus, and they end the storm with faith. And the fact that they had faith the entire time is a witness to everybody around them that this is a person of faith. This person, and it's glorifies God to see that. So there's a lot of different reasons that he would bring storms like this. He's very complex.
Yeah, I guess like just to clarify, I wasn't saying that that I do think that
I'm
of
agreeing
course,
with you, yeah.
God. Oh yeah, I'm not saying you're not, but I'm just saying I do think that sometimes storms do come to glorify God, and a lot of them is just how Satan can as well. So I am agreeing with you as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's cool.
That word rebuke here also refers to a strong authoritative way of saying, not like a
Mm-hmm.
spanking
command,
doing
right.
something wrong. It's in authoritative way he's speaking so that the disciples could his authority over nature as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's speaking of, he has authority over creation. He's demonstrating that.
I like how you said that though. Like, yeah, like I feel like that just demonstrated how like nature does have its own force, you know, and like God, He created that so that it would have like kind of its own free will in a sense, but then like God still has dominion over it. So, yeah.
That's right. How does Jesus' response differ from Paul's response when Paul was shipwrecked?
Who's different than Paul's?
Jesus here, yeah. How does his response here, how does his action differ from Paul? Because Paul, I don't think anybody would argue Paul's not a man of great faith, right? Paul was in a huge storm for a long time, and eventually the ship was lost.
The authority.
So what was Paul's action? What did Paul
Submission? Sorry.
submission? But what was he doing?
Well, Paul was like really emphasizing that that he has to repent and that the Father will protect them during that, right? Where Jesus is actually rebuking and changing the storm, where Paul understood that the storm is from God, by God, for a purpose, and that his faith is what's going to take him, where Jesus actually, he's teaching that, but Jesus actually has the authority to control the winds.
So to be specific, Paul's action was prayer, right? So Paul went into prayer and fasting for days, I think weeks. In the end, he came to the sailors and said, God has granted me your lives if you do this. Okay, that's different than Jesus saying stop. Right? Paul didn't apparently have that ability. He couldn't just tell the storm stop, whereas Jesus could have. So that's in here is just they're recognizing his authority.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
I think this little section that we just read, I really come back to a lot in like just my relationship with Jesus a lot. This is like I think the term is plumb line, right? I use this as like a plumb line because I really enjoy that Jesus is acknowledging the cost of following him wherever he goes. And Matthew is telling this story because I think I like to challenge myself sometimes, say, okay, I'm a follower of Jesus. Jesus, I've given you my entire life. I will go wherever you go. I will do whatever you say. But then something happens at my business, and now all of a sudden I'm upset, right?
Yes.
Or someone says something to me, I'm upset.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the littlest thing, and then I want to, in the same breath, say if someone comes in here with a gun and threatens to kill me, that I wouldn't be scared and I would just die willingly. You know? I think I always really like to come back to this and be like, do I truly believe that Jesus has the authority at a snap of a finger to change the situation in my life? And am I taking control of that? Or am I of so little faith that the littlest thing now deters me from following wherever he goes, you know? It's not going to be the perfect scenario all the time. Following Jesus is hard, you know? So I kind of always go back to this and try to look at myself and say, like, where, like, the littlest thing sometimes bothers me. And I'm finding myself, Lord, please fix this, or what am I going to do here? And it's like I'm like a little child freaking out on the boat when it's like, just go to sleep, man. Jesus is going to wake up and snap his fingers, you know? So I just like that how they follow up with there's a cost, but then there's a, are you actually able to sleep in that storm, right? I think that's a question I'm constantly asking myself.
Well, let's we're gonna go a few extra minutes just because we started late. We won't go too long. But let's look at this statement. Why are you fearful, O you of little faith? This is what he says to them. How do you feel about that? I mean, there's so many things we can pull out of that one statement to the disciples.
Well, I mean, Jesus is literally on the boat with them.
Yeah.
You know, like they're literally sitting next to God. They're like, this guy is sleeping and we're about to die.
Right.
And it's just kind of like I don't know. I think it's so interesting. There are so many examples of this in the Bible, literally with God, or they literally have the actual presence of God and you're still like questioning him. And like here we are, we're like, God's now put up these boundaries between like him and humans, and we're like, a lot of times like we'll wonder like where God is with like a certain level of faith. And so yeah, I can understand why Jesus would look at them and be like, guys, like you have such little faith in like who I am,
Mhm.
because I feel like if that were Jesus and he were doing all these things, like it's almost like they were questioning who he really was.
But isn't that, I mean, that is like human nature. We do that. Like, I'm thinking of a very small comparison of, a number of times I've walked into this coffee shop and my baristas will be in a panic over crises, happening all at once. And I know how to handle it, like a boom, 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 but they're coming up to me and it's like they forget that we know how to handle these things, I guess, in a moment sometimes. But it's not like they, I don't know. But I see that I do that. Like Alex thought, it's like, I know who Jesus is, but for some reason in the moment I forget. Like you're talking about, right?
It's
They
just
have
like
the
it says a
pressure
great
of a
storm.
customer waiting, which I think adds to your stress level.
How do you feel about the fact that he says, "Oh, you of little faith," when they're facing death? They're facing death with this massive storm. He said, "You guys have such
God
little
on
faith."
the boat.
But are they sure? Because they're saying, "Who can this be?"
Well, who are you following this
Yes.
entire time?
But are they
You know?
sure? Peter hasn't really made his declaration yet. So
But
do they
you've
know
left
he's
your
going?
wife,
Yeah.
you've left everything. Now you're on this boat. Everything's getting scary. I mean, it's like exactly what you just said. Like, there's just so much stress. I think in that situation, like, I mean, like me. Okay, what you said. Like, so many times I'm like, I'm saying that like I'm gonna be this way. Like, if I were on that, then I would act a certain way. But at the same time, like, if my latte is made wrong, then I might have a little bit of a day. So like I really can't speak into it like that, but I can speak from my own experience of where like I can also relate to people's as well, because I think like whenever you have so much going on, like in a really traumatic like season in your life over just like one thing after another, and especially in such like a vulnerable spot like of just surrendering a lot, like little things can just get to you. So they're on this boat, and this is not exactly what you just said, like not a little thing, like they're about to die and they're like, all right, now what's gonna happen, like
That's
this
right.
is it, like they're
Yeah.
waiting for the shoe to drop because
Yeah.
they're
Right.
in a place of surrender, like sad, and I don't have my wife and my
Well-
kids or whatever.
Well, what about this aspect? We're going to see later on that Jesus is going to walk on the water, right?
Right.
So, in theory, if the boat sinks, Jesus is just going to walk away on the water, and the disciples are the ones who are going to drown, right? So, maybe what is the aspect where they're thinking, well, we know he can save himself, but is he going to save us? Could that be coming into it? Because I know that's really my question a lot of times. Not can he do it for himself, but does he would save me? Does he want to help me? I think that's part of the question that comes in moments like this. I know I've had so frustrated with so many financial challenges over the years, and every single time, here's a miracle. He provides, get through it, and what are my next thoughts? But what about 4 months from now, when this runs out? Is he going to do it again then? I don't see the way he's going to do it 4 months from now. Forgetting I didn't see the way he was going to do it for the next 2 years either. So, it's kind of like, and you say, okay, well, the boat hasn't sunk now. Like this minute, the boat has sunk. Yay, God. Thanks for keeping us afloat till now. But is that still going to be true 5 minutes from now? Or an hour from now? What about next hour? Is going the next hour?
I think it's
Is
just
that-
a natural fear.
Yeah.
If you're in the water and a great storm comes, it's just natural just to fear what you're seeing.
Yeah. We excuse it with saying it's natural, right? But Jesus didn't excuse it, did he?
No.
And what is he contrasting faith with? He says, what's the first phrase? Why are you
Afraid.
fearful? Oh, you have little faith. So according to Christ, what's it of faith? Fear. And what is faith credited to us according to faith? So faith is credited to us as righteousness. Therefore, fear is going to be credited to us as righteousness. Okay, why? Why would God blame us for fear?
We have to trust in him.
Because if we have faith, we shouldn't be fearful.
For ourselves, so it's like kind of idolatry too. We're not
Okay.
relying on protecting our life.
Yeah, if you're fearful because you don't feel like you're in control. Like a lot of times we're fearful because I can't control this. I can't control what's happening in the situation, thus I'm afraid. That means that your faith was really in yourself, in your ability to control your circumstances. Okay, so there's definitely that. Have any of you ever had, like, told that you would do something, like you committed to do something for somebody, and then that person, like, kept doubting? Like they were, like, questioning you whether you were really going to do it? Like, not believing you?
Yeah.
Like, let's say Josh is driving down the road, okay, and he sees a lady broke down, ran out of gas, okay, and he says, "What's going on?" She says, "I ran out of gas." He says, "No problem," and it's rainy and it's cold. He says, "I'm gonna go to the gas station and I'm gonna buy a container and I'm gonna bring back 5 gallons of gas and I'm gonna put it in your tank and you're gonna be good to go." Okay? It's very nice of Josh to do that. But the lady won't let him go because she keeps saying, "But are you really gonna do it? Are you sure? I don't know. Really, can you, like, leave something with me that I know you'll come back for? You know, to make sure you're coming back? Can I have your phone number? You know, I don't know. Please, you know, how can I know for sure you're coming back?" And she just keeps saying things like that or doing that. And she shows zero faith in your promise. How would that feel?
I want to do it now.
It hurt.
Right.
I don't want to go wrong.
I mean, it's definitely going to take away the joy of him actually helping her, right?
I think it would bother me more if it was someone that really knew me.
Yeah.
Sure, even more
Than
so.
it was somebody on the side, because that would really upset me.
Okay, so a family member is repeatedly doubting your promise to do something. How does that feel?
I would be upset about that, especially if I knew I've always fulfilled them.
Yes,
I mean,
right.
because there are people, family members that don't, but if you knew you stood by your word, then
Well, this is why God is upset by fear, and faith is considered righteousness, because when you just it says He's with us and we just trust that, you know, we believe Him, then that's credited to us as righteousness, because you can see how it make you feel if you promise to help somebody and they believe you. But if they don't believe you, how would they? You know?
I think this is really sobering too, right? Because it's like the only way to get closer to that, to get rid of that fear, is through relationship
Storms.
with Him, right? His heart
Through
posture.
storm.
Yeah, through storms.
Yeah.
But it's relationship with Him, and
Yeah.
really searching in ourselves and asking Him, what is this storm revealing in my heart, right? Like really having that relationship with Him, because it's like so unimpressed with everything else. Like even if they're good things, you know, like He's impressed with our heart posture towards Him, and that like thirst for Him to be in our heart, right? Because the disciples have, and they're on this storm, and He didn't go, well, hey, well, listen, it's okay, you're still learning, you left everything you own, you're on this boat with me, I know it's scary, let me teach you how to do this. He's like, you have little faith, you know, and for me it's sobering, because it's, if I'm not constantly going back and thinking about that heart posture, which what God is impressed by, it's like, He's not impressed that we go to church, He's not impressed with the missions, He's not impressed with all these, like, with Christian or like all these other aesthetic things, you know, that we kind of try to hang on to, where if the heart relationship isn't there, then it's just, He's not impressed with that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so it's sobering. Makes you realize that.
Challenge for us. So think about the last storm you were in. Maybe you're in a storm now, or the most recent storm you were in. How well did you do with faith? How well did you believe that He would help you and be there to get you through it? Did you doubt because you have committed some sins, and so you thought that disqualified you from His help, like He wasn't going to do it anymore? Did you doubt because you're just not sure that you're worth attention and help, that He like wants to help you as much as He would someone else? Or did you doubt because you're not sure He cares enough, or He's just that active? Or did you doubt because you weren't sure He had the power to fix it? You know?
It's so big too, or like when the storm passes and then you're like, oh.
Yeah.
So it's like, I always like try, like I really, just Lord help me, But when you go through storms, not to murmur. Be
Mhm.
like, I always think about those in the wilderness, is the murmuring that kept them there, or the complaining. And so, because when you get to that point where it's victory, then you look back on and like, oh gosh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, God,
Yes.
that I didn't have that and
Right.
belief in you.
Right.
You know, I think I doubt sometimes is because I know God may say no. It's like you were saying that it may be my time, it may not be my time. So that, it's not that I can do it. Of course he can 100%. But what if he's saying, Deb, this way you're
So
going?
if we're gonna leave it up to his prerogative, of course, to answer how he wants to, how can we still do that with an attitude of faith? What would that look like?
I just continue to pray.
So perhaps I believe God is going to save me, and if He doesn't, I'm confident I'm going to be right with Him, and that'll be good
Right.
too, right? So either way, you can show a joy. If in the ideal, if you're doing really well in faith, you'll be able to say, I'm joyful because He's going to save me from this storm, and if He doesn't, I'm joyful because I'm going to be with Him. But like wringing of the hands. The wringing of the hands is a sign of, which I do far too often myself. So. Anyways, I think that's the challenge for us today, is to grow in this, to overcome fear in the middle of the storm. There are storms coming to this country. So no fear is allowed. That's not me saying that. I believe that's what God is saying. I believe that's what Jesus is saying. No fear this country goes through what it's about to go through over the next years. So you have to have faith that you'll be in a bubble, that God will be with you, protecting you, just like He protected the disciples here. And if He doesn't, joy, because you go home and be with Him that much sooner. Yeah, that's kind of be our attitude. All right, let's go ahead and pray. Alec, would you close us in prayer?
Father in heaven, thank you, Lord, for bringing us this morning, Lord. And Lord, I just pray that you'll be with us this week, Lord, just to be convicted by your word today, Lord. I pray that you just allow us to just follow you and the heart posture that's preventing us from following you with our whole heart, Lord. And just pray that you will just be with us and just take care of the coffee shop this week, Lord. May you just bless all the interns and just send the right people so they can fulfill the mission that they're called to. And that's to spread your word and spread the gospel, Lord. So we praise you, we love you. In Christ's holy name. Amen.
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 Thank you,
Can you
everybody.
write down your address?